I need a drink. And I think it was a bourbon and coke kind of guy. And then obviously it's a packed house. It's going to be a battle. So, you know, he was just like, I need a drink. And then he just kind of didn't jump, but he got up on here and then he tried to do the Jesus walk because it was pretty packed. So he started to walk on people and they were holding him. He was probably walking on their heads as well. And then, you know, he kind of did the old crowd surf because it got a little bit thinner and he surfed his way to the bar. I had the drink ready. He was still playing as well. This is not in between songs. This is like in the middle of a chorus. He's still thumping it out. Gets the drink. I don't know where he put it, to be honest. I think he ducked it under his elbow. And then he just was like, right guys, back. And then he still had his drink and he was still surfed back on there, took a swig, kept playing. So I thought that was pretty smooth. You know, that was like 20 seconds. He got a drink, got back on stage, kept playing. So that was fun. I think many other people have attempted to do something like that and just fall flat on their face. So yeah, it's a skill. It's a skill. He pulled it off pretty well.
Right.
But nothing too crazy has happened in the sense. Oh, we did have one guy set up fireworks in here 2 weeks ago and essentially it blew up. Yeah, exactly. I didn't know. Nobody knew that. Nobody knew that was going to happen. He obviously, you know, made a mistake setting it up. Thankfully, nobody was on stage. There's a bit of dust still around and we're trying to wipe off and you know, but in terms of, you know, no car. So yeah, it's pretty chill. There's obviously the black metal shows where they might turn up with the old thing. Oh, what's that? You know, like, oh, what's that smell? It smells like blue cheese, you know, and then you realise it's because there's rats that are 15 years old on their tops, hooked into their real rats, and that they've frozen, and then they'll pull it out at every show and put it on their jackets, so they literally smell like death. And of course the rats kind of got this weird congealed kind of, the body is there and the skin's all like, and they stink. The bacteria, that, you know, there's that smell where I shouldn't be here. Your body has that natural reaction of, I'm gonna get sick. This is gonna poison and kill me. But it creates a bit of an atmosphere. It creates an environment. And of course, when they do play, half the crowd's out the back because it's disgusting. And the rest of them are like, yeah, give me all your evil, you know. So immediately I knew that was going to happen. Another one was an altar. It's always the black metal guys.
Like the skull.
The skull, except it had a turd in it. So, you know, to be honest, they were notorious for that. So it wasn't unexpected, but it's perhaps unexpected if you're just a random person walking off the street. Oh, there's probably a human skull with a human feces in it. That's Valhalla, as you do, you know. That only happened once in Italy. So there's a few odd things, but part of the parcel, you know, goes with the music.
So what do you think is the future of heavy metal in local?
And even if it's not a heavy metal show at Valhalla, I like to think that the majority of music, all the music that we put on, it's doing the same thing. Maybe even if it's, you know, a softer, say, indie type band, hopefully it's good and people are still like speaking to them. Yeah, so there's not too many plastic shows, I'd like to think, you know. So
for all those bands who played here, what do you think, I mean, who rose above, who became like well-known around New Zealand?
So in terms of, you know, built up a good reputation and stuff.
Yeah. Reputation, that's probably the term.
Yeah, certainly, and maybe not necessarily, you know, my time going upwards, but bands like Meth Drinker, Heresia, Blood of the Moon, who kind of, you know, played local shows, but obviously top of their game. You know, some of those bands went overseas, did lots of tours, Roger Nomit, and kind of, you know, still the DIY, still the kind of the gritty shows, but are really respected around the world. Bands will come in to New Zealand, now overseas bands, be like, hey, any chance Meth Drinker could, you know, reform and play for us? We love Meth Drinker, you know. You talk to people in Russia or whatever, and they'll say certain bands like Meth Drinker or Rishiak or whatnot. And so they're all local people. So they're sort of, yeah, that would be cool as to have happen here. So I almost look at it as much as like, with the business hat on, as almost being like a punter. Because I'll be like, wow, that would be an awesome experience kind of for everybody. Not necessarily like, oh, we're gonna sell 800 tickets or, you know, whatever. I think we've got some shows next year that hopefully do sell good tickets, but you know that they'll be fun shows. You know, it won't be some dusty old kind of going through the motions band. So that's probably the main criteria. Is this going to be fun for everybody? But then there's the argument, is that true metal? You know what I mean? So the younger kids are into slightly different variants, which is cool and fair, because you look at the 80s and you probably got like Black Sabbath type, you know, metalers, and then you got the death metal kids turning up. And I'm sure they were just like, what's this stuff? You know, so it's the same kind of, that kind of shift on what people listen to.
I was talking to Steve Francis about the change in the landscape, and I was giving him an example, like when Metallica started, they were like thrash metal.
Yeah.
And then they released the Black Album, suddenly it's a different shift. It's a huge shift in their
totally, and their sound, maybe fan base as well, to a degree, you know.
And he hated that, like, it's not over thrash.
Yeah. And it is kind of hard because, you know, a human being's got to change and evolve, and maybe they get into different things. They still obviously love what they did, hopefully, in their past or whatever. But, you know, you've got to have a chance to evolve as a musician, really. But I think certainly the local scene's evolved. So hardcore's cool. Hardcore's always cool. Hardcore's in. Everybody's playing in hardcore bands or screamo bands. 8 to 10 years ago, yes, that was happening. But now it seems like, you know, if you're a kid coming out of school, you're probably going to be doing that kind of thing. But in saying that, in 2 years' time, it'll just kind of trend to maybe everybody's all of a sudden crust punks and, you know, stuff clean living and all that, you know. Yeah. But I think the good thing about Valhalla is most people that turn up here, they love music. Like, music's their identity, their passion, everything about them, that kind of tick is kind of music, or, you know, they really appreciate music. It's big in their life. So it's just not background music, and certainly heavy metal's not just background music. You know, it's not designed to just, you know, listen to and chill out to. You know, you're really in it. Maybe you are chilling out to it, but you're feeling something. You're feeling something.
Yeah.
So
it's a good example that I was talking as well. You feel like you're having goosebumps when you're listening.
Yeah.
Then probably
that's connected with you, you know. And even if it's not a heavy metal show at Valhalla, I like to think that the majority of music, all the music that we put on, it's doing the same thing. Maybe even if it's, you know, a softer, say, indie type band, hopefully it's good and people are still like speaking to them. Yeah, so there's not too many plastic shows, I'd like to think, you know. So
for all those bands who played here, who do you think, I mean, who rose above, who became like well-known around New Zealand?
So in terms of, you know, built up a good reputation and stuff.
Yeah. Good reputation, that's probably that term.
Yeah, certainly, and maybe not necessarily, you know, my time going upwards, but bands like Meth Drinker, Heresia, Blood of the Moon, who kind of, you know, played local shows, but obviously top of their game. You know, some of those bands went overseas, did lots of tours, Roger Nomet, and kind of, you know, still the DIY, still the kind of the gritty shows, but are really respected around the world. Bands will come in to New Zealand, now overseas bands, be like, hey, any chance Meth Drinker could, you know, reform and play for us? We love Meth Drinker, you know. You talk to people in Russia or whatever, and they'll say certain bands like Meth Drinker or Rishiak or whatnot. And so they're all local people. So that they're sort of